Maya's hands were shaking as she wiped down the last table of her shift. It was almost midnight and her feet felt like they were going to fall off. She'd been working at the diner for 6 hours straight, and before that, she'd done a morning shift at the grocery store. 2 jobs, 7 days a week. That was her life now. She pulled out her phone and saw the message from Mr. Patterson, her landlord. Her stomach dropped as she read it. The rent was due in 3 days, and she was still $800 short. $800 might as well have been $8 million. She had $32 in her bank account and half a tank of gas in her old car. Maya walked to her car in the parking lot, her mind racing. Sophie and Lucas were with Mrs. Chen next door, probably already asleep. They were only 4 years old and they deserved so much better than this. They deserved a mother who could afford to buy them new shoes instead of hunting through thrift stores. They deserved a home where they didn't have to worry about being evicted every other month. She sat in her car and felt the tears coming. She tried to hold them back, but they came anyway. Her sister Rosa was the only person she could ask for help, but Rosa had her own problems. Still, Maya had no choice. She opened her messages and started typing. "Please, I'm begging you. I need $800 by Friday or we're on the streets. The twins are sick and I don't know what else to do." She hit send and put her head on the steering wheel. The twins weren't actually sick right now, but they'd both had bad colds last week, and she'd had to miss work to take care of them. That's why she was short on rent. One sick day had destroyed her entire budget. Maya started her car and drove home. The apartment was in a rough neighborhood, but it was all she could afford. She picked up the twins from Mrs. Chen's place, carrying Sophie while Lucas held onto her hand, still half asleep. "Thank you so much," Maya whispered to the elderly woman. "I'll pay you back for watching them, I promise." Mrs. Chen waved her hand. "Don't worry about it, dear. Those babies are angels. You just take care of yourself." Maya got the twins into bed and finally collapsed on the couch. Her phone buzzed. That was fast. Rosa must have seen the message already. But when she looked at the screen, her heart stopped. Wrong number. But who is this? Maya stared at the message. Oh no, oh no, no, no. She quickly checked the number she'd sent the message to. She'd typed it wrong. In her exhausted emotional state, she'd switched 2 digits. She'd sent that desperate, embarrassing message to a complete stranger. Her face burned with shame. She wanted to throw her phone across the room. Instead, she typed back quickly, "I'm so sorry. I meant to text my sister. Please just delete that message and forget about it. I'm really sorry." She thought that would be the end of it. Most people would just ignore a wrong number text, especially one that awkward. But a minute later, another message came through. "It's okay. Are you really in trouble?" Maya didn't know what to do. Why was the stranger asking? She should just stop responding. But something about the question felt genuine. She was so tired of pretending everything was fine. So tired of being strong all the time. Before she could stop herself, she typed back, "Yes, but it's not your problem. I'm sorry I bothered you. What's your name?" Maya hesitated. This was weird, right? She shouldn't be talking to some random person, but what harm could it do? It wasn't like she'd ever meet this person. "Maya, look, I really am sorry about the message. I've had a long day. I'm Alexander, and I understand long days." They started texting back and forth. Maya didn't know why she kept responding. Maybe because it was easier to talk to a stranger than to face her own problems. Alexander asked questions, and she found herself answering honestly. She told him about the twins, about working 2 jobs, about how their father had left before they were even born. He said he wasn't ready to be a dad. Maya typed, "Just packed his stuff one day and left. I haven't heard from him in 4 years. That must have been hard." It was, but honestly, I'm better off without him. The twins are better off too. We don't need someone who doesn't want to be there. Alexander asked about her jobs, about what she did all day. Maya found herself describing the diner, the rude customers, the decent tips on good days and the terrible tips on bad days. She talked about the grocery store, about standing on her feet for hours, about coming home so tired she could barely think. "Why are you asking me all this?" She finally typed. "You don't even know me. Maybe that's exactly why I'm asking. Everyone in my life wants something from me. You texted me by accident. There's something honest about that." Maya wasn't sure what he meant by that, but she was too tired to think about it deeply. They kept texting until almost 2 in the morning. Alexander told her he worked in business, but he didn't say much about himself. Mostly he just listened. Or read, technically, since they were texting. But it felt like listening. Finally, Maya said she had to sleep. She had to be up at 6 for her morning shift. Thank you for talking to me, Alexander typed. I know that sounds strange, but I needed this conversation more than you know. Thank you for not thinking I'm crazy, Maya responded. Good night, Alexander. Good night, Maya. She fell asleep on the couch, her phone still in her hand. When she woke up a few hours later, there was another message waiting for her. I've been thinking about what you said, about needing $800 by Friday. I'd like to help. Maya sat up quickly, her heart pounding. No way. She wasn't taking money from a stranger. That was crazy. That was dangerous. I can't accept that, she typed back. I don't even know you. That's way too much. I understand. But let me ask you something. If your sister had the money, would you accept it from her? That's different. She's family. The only difference is time. Everyone's a stranger until they're not. Maya didn't know how to respond to that. She got the twins ready for daycare and headed to her morning shift. All day she kept thinking about that message. $800 would solve her immediate problem. But accepting money from a stranger? That couldn't be safe. There had to be a catch. During her break, she texted him again. Why would you help me? You don't know anything about me. I could be lying about everything. Are you? No, but you don't know that. I'm a good judge of character. And honestly, Maya, I can afford it. $800 won't change my life, but it will change yours. That's when it hit her. This Alexander person must have money. Real money. She thought about asking him what he did for work, but she was afraid of the answer. What if he was some kind of criminal? What if this was some weird scam? I need to think about it, she typed. Take your time. But Maya, the offer is genuine. No strings attached. Just someone who can help someone who needs it. Maya spent the whole day thinking about it. She picked up the twins from daycare, made them dinner, gave them a bath, and put them to bed. The whole time her mind was spinning. By the time she sat down on the couch again, she'd made a decision. She texted Alexander. If you're serious about helping, I won't say no. But I want to pay you back. Every cent. I don't know how long it will take, but I will. His response came quickly. Deal, but I have a different proposal. Instead of just giving you the money, what if I gave you a way to earn it? Maya's heart raced. Here it comes, she thought. The catch. What do you mean? I need help with something. A project. If you're interested, we could meet and discuss it. Somewhere public during the day. You can bring a friend if you want. No pressure. Maya stared at her phone. This was insane. She should block this number and forget the whole thing. But something in her gut told her to trust this. Or maybe it was just desperation. She didn't know anymore. Okay, she typed. When and where? Maya chose the busiest coffee shop in town for the meeting. It was Wednesday afternoon, and the place was packed with people. She told Rosa everything, and her sister insisted on coming along. Rosa sat at a nearby table, pretending to read a book but watching everything like a hawk. Maya had no idea what Alexander looked like. He'd said he'd be wearing a gray suit and would find her. She'd told him she'd be in a blue jacket and would probably look terrified, which was accurate. She ordered a coffee she couldn't really afford and sat down at a small table near the window. Her hands were sweating. This was either going to be the stupidest thing she'd ever done or maybe, just maybe, a miracle. She was betting on stupid. Then she saw him walk in and her coffee nearly slipped from her hands. She recognized him immediately, and not because of the gray suit. She recognized him from the news, from magazines, from the business section of newspapers she'd glance at while waiting in line at the grocery store. Alexander Chen, the Alexander Chen, CEO of Chen Industries, one of the biggest companies in the state. The man worth billions. That Alexander Chen was walking straight toward her table. Maya? He asked, and his voice was gentler than she expected. She couldn't speak. She just nodded. He sat down across from her and she noticed he looked tired. Not physically tired, but something deeper, like he was exhausted in his soul. You're the CEO, she finally managed to say, from the news. Chen Industries. I am, he said simply. Does that change things? I don't know. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have agreed to meet me if you knew? Maya thought about it. Probably not. I would have thought it was some kind of joke. Alexander smiled a little, and it made him look younger. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I wanted you to meet me, not my reputation. Rosa was making frantic hand gestures from her table, her eyes wide. Maya ignored her. Okay, Maya said, trying to sound braver than she felt. You said you had a proposal. What kind of project are you talking about? Alexander leaned back in his chair. My mother passed away 6 months ago. She ran a charity foundation for 20 years, helping single parents get back on their feet. After she died, I inherited everything, including the foundation. I've been avoiding dealing with it because... He paused, and Maya saw real pain cross his face. Because looking at her work means accepting that she's really gone. I'm sorry, Maya said softly, and she meant it. She knew what loss felt like. The foundation is a mess right now. Files everywhere. No organization. Programs that need to be reviewed and updated. I need someone to sort through everything. Organize it, figure out what should stay and what should change. Someone who understands what single parents actually need, not someone who just thinks they know. Maya listened carefully. And you think I'm qualified for that? I think you're more qualified than anyone I could hire. You live it every day. You know what helps and what doesn't. You know what programs are actually useful and which ones are just feel-good nonsense. But I don't have any experience in charity work. I barely finished community college. I'm not... You're exactly what this foundation needs, Alexander interrupted. My mother started it because she was a single parent once too. She'd want someone like you running it, not some consultant who's never struggled a day in their life. Maya's mind was racing. This sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? No catch. I'll pay you $5,000 a month. There's a guest house on my property where you and the twins can stay rent-free. I'll cover medical expenses for your children. You work regular hours 9 to 5 so you can actually spend time with them. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. $5,000 a month? Free housing? Medical coverage? People didn't just offer things like that. Why me? She asked again. You could have anyone. Why would you pick someone you met through a wrong number text? Alexander was quiet for a moment. Can I be honest with you? Please. Everyone in my life wants something from me. My board wants me to make them richer. Business partners want deals. Even people I thought were friends just want access to my money or my connections. When you texted me by accident and we started talking, you had no idea who I was. You were just honest, real. I haven't had a real conversation with anyone in longer than I can remember. Maya saw something in his eyes that surprised her. Loneliness. This man had everything money could buy, and he was lonely. I'm not a charity case, she said firmly. If I do this, I'll work hard. I'll earn every cent you pay me. I wouldn't expect anything less. And I need to think about the twins. Moving them to a new place, being around a stranger. I need to make sure it's safe for them. Of course. Take a few days. Think about it. Come see the property if you want. Bring your sister, he added, glancing at Rosa, who quickly looked back down at her book. I want you to feel comfortable with this. Maya studied his face. He looked sincere, but she'd been wrong about people before. The twins' father had looked sincere too, right up until the day he left. Can I ask you something? Maya said. What do you get out of this? Really? Alexander thought about his answer carefully. Peace, maybe. My mother's legacy deserves better than me ignoring it, because I'm too much of a coward to face my grief. And maybe, he hesitated, maybe I want to do something good for once. Something that isn't about profit margins and stock prices. They talked for another hour. Alexander showed her pictures of the foundation's old programs, explained what his mother had built, described the guest house. It was small, he said, just 2 bedrooms, but it was private and safe. The property had security, a playground from when he was a kid that nobody used anymore. When they finally stood up to leave, Maya made her decision. I need to see the place first. This weekend, if that works. I'll bring Rosa and the twins. Saturday at 10? Alexander suggested. Saturday at 10. Rosa practically tackled Maya the moment Alexander left. Are you insane? Do you know who that is? Do you have any idea how rich he is? I know exactly who he is. And you're actually considering this? Maya looked at her sister. Rosa, I'm drowning. I work 14 hours a day and I still can't pay rent. The twins need so much more than I can give them. If this is real, if he's genuine, this could change everything. And if he's not, if this is some weird thing, then I'll grab my kids and leave. But I have to try. I have to at least look. Saturday morning came. Maya dressed the twins in their nicest clothes, which wasn't saying much. Sophie's dress had a stain she couldn't get out, and Lucas's shirt was too small, but it was the best she had. Rosa drove them to the address Alexander had given them. When they pulled up to the gates, Rosa actually gasped. This isn't a house. This is an estate. The property was massive. The main house looked like something from a magazine, all modern glass and steel. But Alexander met them at the guest house, which was separate from the main building. It was small compared to the main house, but to Maya, it looked like a palace. "Come in," Alexander said, and Maya noticed he seemed nervous. Good. That made him seem more human. The guest house had 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a living room with big windows overlooking a garden. It was furnished simply but nicely. Everything was clean and bright and safe. Sophie immediately ran to the window. "Mama, look, swings!" Sure enough, there was a playground outside, old but well-maintained. Alexander smiled. "I learned to climb on those monkey bars. They're sturdy." Lucas tugged on Maya's hand. "Can we live here, Mama, please?" Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Her kids deserved this. They deserved a home where they could play outside without worrying about broken glass or dangerous strangers. They deserved bedrooms and space and security. Rosa pulled Maya aside while Alexander showed the twins the playground through the window. "I hate to admit it, but this seems legitimate. I still think you should be careful, but—"
"Maya, look at your kids' faces."
"When's the last time you saw them this excited?" Maya watched Sophie and Lucas pressing their faces against the glass, pointing at the swings and the slide. "I can't remember," she whispered. She found Alexander in the kitchen. He was standing awkwardly, like he didn't quite know what to do with himself. "The foundation office is in the city," he said. "About 20 minutes from here. I'll have a car take you to and from work every day so you don't have to worry about gas or wear on your car." "A car? A driver? It's easier and safer for the twins if you need to bring them along for some reason." Maya shook her head in disbelief. "This is crazy. Your life is crazy. I know it's a lot to take in, but Maya, I meant what I said. No strings. You work, I pay you. You and your children have a safe place to live. That's the deal. When would you want me to start? Whenever you're ready. Tomorrow, next week, next month. Whatever works for you." Maya looked back at her children. Sophie had convinced Rosa to take them outside, and they were running toward the swings, their laughter floating through the open door. When was the last time she'd heard them laugh like that? Really laugh without any worry or fear? She turned back to Alexander. "I'll need a week to give notice at my jobs and move our stuff. Can I start a week from Monday?" Something in Alexander's expression softened. "Take 2 weeks if you need it. I'll cover this month's rent at your current place so you're not stressed about moving quickly. You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to." Maya extended her hand. "Okay, we have a deal. But I'm serious about working hard. I'm going to make that foundation something your mother would be proud of." Alexander shook her hand. "She would have liked you. She always said the strongest people are the ones who keep going even when everything falls apart." Sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. As they were leaving, Lucas ran up to Alexander and looked up at him with those big brown eyes. "Mr. Alexander, are you going to be our friend?" Alexander crouched down to Lucas's level. "I'd like that very much, if it's okay with your mom." Lucas grinned and hugged him before running back to the car. Alexander stood there looking stunned, his hand still raised from where Lucas had hugged him. Maya saw it then. This man with all his money and power had no idea what to do with a child's simple affection. He looked lost and found at the same time. "Thank you," Maya said quietly, "for all of this. I won't let you down." "Maya," Alexander said, still watching Lucas climb into the car, "I think you're going to save this foundation. But I think," he paused, "I think maybe you're going to save more than that." She didn't understand what he meant, not then. But she would. Soon enough she would. Moving day was chaos. Maya didn't have much, but packing up 4 years of life with 2 energetic 4-year-olds was like trying to catch water with your hands. Rosa helped, and so did Mrs. Chen, who cried when she realized they were leaving. "You call me if you need anything," Mrs. Chen said, hugging Maya tight. "And you bring those babies to visit their Grandma Chen, you hear me?" "I promise," Maya said, and she meant it. Alexander had sent a moving truck, which seemed excessive for their belongings. Everything they owned fit in about 15 boxes and 3 suitcases. The driver was kind, though, and helped carry everything into the guest house. By evening, they were unpacked and settled in. Sophie and Lucas each had their own bedroom for the first time in their lives. Sophie had immediately started arranging her stuffed animals on the bed, talking to each one about their new home. Lucas had found a toy truck in his closet with a note that said, "Welcome home," in handwriting Maya didn't recognize. Alexander's handwriting, she'd learn later. That night, after the twins were asleep, Maya stood in the kitchen of her new home and let herself cry. Good tears this time. Relief tears. Maybe everything will be okay tears. Her first day at the foundation office was overwhelming. The office was in a nice building downtown, and Maya felt underdressed in her best clothes, which were still clearly from discount stores. But the moment she walked into the foundation suite, she forgot about her clothes. Files. Everywhere. Boxes stacked on boxes, papers covering every surface, folders spilling their contents onto the floor. Alexander wasn't kidding when he said it was a mess. I know it looks bad, Alexander said from behind her. She hadn't heard him come in. I should have warned you. This is going to take more than a few weeks, Maya said, staring at the disaster. Take as long as you need. I should also tell you I hired someone to help with the twins during the day. Her name is Patricia. She's been with my family for years. Helped raise me, actually. She'll watch Sophie and Lucas at the guest house while you work, if that's okay with you. Maya turned to him. You didn't mention that before. I know. I should have asked first, but I thought you might need help. And Patricia was asking me if there was anything she could do since my mother passed. She loves children. Raised 3 of her own. But if you're not comfortable with it, can I meet her first? She's at the house now waiting. I told her not to do anything until you'd met her and approved. Maya appreciated that he'd thought ahead, even if he should have asked first. They went back to the estate and Maya met Patricia, a warm woman in her 60s with kind eyes and an easy smile. She watched how Patricia interacted with the twins, how Sophie immediately showed her all her stuffed animals and Lucas asked if she knew how to build with blocks. You've got sweet children, Patricia said to Maya. I'd be honored to spend time with them, and I promise you, I understand you're their mother. I'm just here to help, not replace. Maya felt something in her chest relax. Thank you. That means a lot. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Maya would wake up, have breakfast with the twins, then Patricia would arrive and Maya would head to the office. She'd work through mountains of files, slowly bringing order to chaos. Alexander would stop by occasionally, sometimes to check on progress, sometimes just to bring coffee. She learned about his mother through the files. Grace Chen had built something beautiful, programs for childcare assistance, job training, emergency funds for single parents in crisis. But some programs hadn't been updated in years, and some seemed to miss the mark entirely. One afternoon, Alexander found her making notes in a folder. What are you thinking? He asked. Your mother's childcare program is good, but it only covers daycare centers. What about parents who work night shifts or weekends? They can't use regular daycare. They need different solutions. Alexander sat down across from her. What would you suggest? A network of vetted babysitters who work flexible hours. And pay them well, not minimum wage. Good childcare is worth paying for. She paused. Your mother was amazing, Alexander. She helped so many people. But some of these programs feel like they were designed by people who never actually lived the struggle. Show me, he said. They spent hours going through files together. Maya explained what would actually help, versus what just sounded good on paper. Alexander listened, really listened, asking questions and taking notes. She'd expected him to be defensive about his mother's work, but instead he seemed hungry to make it better. I think my mother would have liked you, he said as they were closing up that evening. She always said her biggest fear was that rich people would run her foundation and lose touch with why it existed. I'm not running it, Maya said. I'm just organizing. You're doing more than that. You're improving it. Don't sell yourself short. At home, things were changing too. Alexander started joining them for dinner occasionally, just showing up at the guest house with takeout, asking if he could eat with them. The first time, Maya was suspicious. The second time, she was confused. By the 5th time, she realized he was lonely. The twins loved it. Sophie would save her drawings from the day to show him. Lucas started calling him Mr. Alex and would tell him long, rambling stories about his day that made no sense, but Alexander listened to every word. One evening, after the twins were in bed, Alexander stayed to help Maya clean up. They ended up sitting on the couch, both exhausted. Can I ask you something? Maya said, why are you really doing all this? And don't say it's about the foundation. There's something else. Alexander was quiet for a long time. My mother and I weren't close the last few years. I was always working, always busy. She'd call and I'd say I'd call her back, but I wouldn't. She wanted me to slow down, to find a life outside of work. I thought I had time. And then she had a stroke, and 3 days later she was gone. I never got to tell her I was sorry. I never got to show her I understood what she was trying to tell me. Maya's heart hurt for him. So this is about guilt? Maybe at first. But it's not anymore. He looked at her. When I'm here with you and the twins, I feel like I can breathe. Like I'm not just a CEO or a business deal or a stock price. I'm just a person. You're always a person, Alexander. Not in my world. In my world, I'm a resource to be used. Even the woman my board wants me to marry, Victoria Hastings, she doesn't see me. She sees a merger opportunity. They want you to marry someone for business? Welcome to my life. 2 companies become one, everyone gets richer. Who cares if there's no love or even basic liking involved? Maya shook her head. That's insane. Marriage should be about love, about building a life with someone. Should be. But when you have money like I do, nothing is that simple. He looked at her. Do you ever miss him? The twins' father? No, Maya said without hesitation. I missed who I thought he was. But the real him? The one who walked away from his children? I don't miss that person at all. The twins and I are better off alone than with someone who doesn't want to be there. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for. I'm not strong. I'm just doing what I have to do. That's the definition of strength. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Maya heard it. Crying. She jumped up and found Sophie standing in her bedroom doorway, tears streaming down her face. Baby, what's wrong? Maya scooped her up. Bad dream, Sophie sobbed. The monster came and took you away. I'm right here, sweetie. I'm not going anywhere. But Sophie wouldn't calm down. She was shaking, clinging to Maya like she was afraid to let go. Alexander appeared in the doorway. May I? He asked softly. Maya wasn't sure what he meant, but she was exhausted and Sophie was getting heavier. She nodded. Alexander gently took Sophie from her arms. Hey, Sophie, he said quietly. You know what I do when I have bad dreams about monsters? Sophie looked at him with wet eyes. What? I remember that the real monsters are afraid of brave little girls like you. And you know what else? What? Your mama is like a superhero. She fights off monsters every single day. She's the strongest person I know. No dream monster is getting past her. Sophie sniffled. Really? Really. And you know what else? If any monster ever tried to hurt you or your brother or your mom, they'd have to go through me too. And I'm pretty scary when I need to be. Sophie actually giggled a little. You're not scary, Mr. Alex. You're nice. Well, I'm nice to you because you're special. But to monsters? Very scary. He carried her back to bed, and Maya watched as he sat with her, telling her a story about a brave princess who protected her kingdom from nightmares. His voice was soft and patient, and within 10 minutes, Sophie was asleep again. When he came back to the living room, Maya was wiping her eyes. You okay? He asked. You were good with her, natural, like you've done it before. I haven't. But I wanted to help. Thank you. She really likes you, you know. Both of them do. I really like them too. He paused. I like all of you. There was something in the way he said it that made Maya's heart skip. She pushed the feeling away. This was her boss. This was a temporary situation. She couldn't let herself feel things that would complicate everything. But Alexander seemed to be having the same struggle. They stood there, not quite looking at each other, both aware that something was shifting between them. I should go, he said finally. It's late. Yeah, thank you again. For everything. At the door, he turned back. Maya, I meant what I said. About you being strong. Don't ever doubt that. After he left, Maya checked on both twins. They were sleeping peacefully, safe and warm in their own beds. She thought about how much had changed in just a few weeks. They had a home. She had a job she was actually good at. The twins had Patricia and plenty of food and security. But the biggest change was Alexander. He'd started as a stranger, then an employer, but now he was becoming something else. A friend, maybe, or maybe something more complicated than that. She pulled out her phone and looked at that first message she'd sent by accident, the one that had started everything. Sometimes the biggest mistakes turned into the biggest blessings, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this blessing came with risks she didn't fully understand yet. In the main house, Alexander sat in his study, looking at a picture of his mother. I'm trying, Mom, he whispered to the photograph. I'm trying to do what you wanted. To find something real. I think maybe I have. But I don't know what to do with it. The picture didn't answer, but Alexander could almost hear his mother's voice. She'd always told him that the best things in life were the ones that scared you a little. Well, Maya and her twins terrified him. Not because they were dangerous, but because they made him feel things he'd forgotten he could feel. Hope. Joy. The possibility of family. The possibility of love. And that was scarier than any business deal he'd ever made. 3 months passed, and Maya's life had transformed in ways she still couldn't quite believe. The foundation was running smoothly now, with new programs launching every week. She'd hired 2 staff members, both single parents themselves, and together they were making real changes. But the best part was watching her children thrive. Sophie and Lucas had gained weight, their cheeks fuller and healthier. They laughed more. They played without fear. Lucas had started preschool at a good school nearby, and Sophie would join him next semester. Alexander had become part of their daily lives. He'd eat dinner with them 3 or 4 times a week. He'd taught Lucas how to tie his shoes. He'd sat through Sophie's entire performance of The Princess and the Dragon that she'd made up, complete with costume changes. Maya tried not to think too hard about what it meant. Tried not to notice how her heart sped up when he walked into a room. Tried not to see the way he looked at her sometimes like she was something precious. But other people were noticing. Patricia had given her knowing looks. Rosa kept asking when she was going to admit she had feelings for him. Even the twins had started asking if Mr. Alex could stay for bedtime stories every night. Then came the day that changed everything. Maya had taken the twins to their regular checkup. It was supposed to be routine. Just a normal visit to make sure they were healthy. But Dr. Patel, their pediatrician, noticed something wrong with Sophie. Her heart rate is irregular, Dr. Patel said, concern in her voice.
Has she been more tired than usual?
Short of breath. Maya thought about it. Sophie had been taking more naps lately, but Maya had thought she was just growing. Maybe a little. I thought it was normal. I want to do some tests. Today, if possible. 3 hours later, Maya was sitting in a hospital room while Sophie underwent an echocardiogram. Lucas was confused and scared, holding tight to Maya's hand. Maya felt like she was drowning. This couldn't be happening. Not to Sophie. Not to her baby. She called Patricia, who came immediately to take Lucas home. Then she called Rosa, who said she'd be there as soon as she could. She didn't call Alexander. He was her employer, not her family. She couldn't keep depending on him for everything. But somehow he knew. He showed up at the hospital 2 hours later, still in his suit from work. Patricia called me, he said, finding Maya in the waiting room. How is she? Maya couldn't speak. She just shook her head, and the tears she'd been holding back finally came. Alexander sat beside her and let her cry on his shoulder. The doctor said she has a heart defect, Maya finally managed to say. A congenital condition they missed when she was born. It's gotten worse. She needs surgery, Alexander. Heart surgery. She's only 4 years old. Okay, Alexander said calmly. Okay, what did the doctors say? What's the next step? They're running more tests. But they said she needs the surgery soon, within the next few weeks. And the surgeon they want is in the city, at University Hospital. He's the best, but Maya's voice broke. Even with insurance, it's going to cost thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. I don't have that kind of money. Maya, look at me, Alexander said, taking her hands. Money is not an issue. Do you understand? Oh, whatever Sophie needs, she gets it. The best surgeon, the best hospital, the best care. All of it. I can't let you pay for this. It's too much. Yes, you can. And you will. Sophie is... He paused, his voice thick with emotion. She's special. All of you are. Let me help, please. Maya wanted to argue, but she was too scared and too tired. She just nodded. Dr. Patel came out an hour later with results. Sophie had a condition called ventricular septal defect, a hole in her heart. It needed to be repaired surgically and soon. The longer they waited, the more dangerous it became. We need to schedule the surgery within 2 weeks, Dr. Patel said. I've already called Dr. Harrison at University Hospital. He's the best pediatric cardiac surgeon in the region. He can see her tomorrow for a consultation. The consultation confirmed Maya's worst fears. Sophie needed open heart surgery. Dr. Harrison was confident he could fix it, but he was honest about the risks. Any surgery had risks, especially on someone so small. She's strong, Dr. Harrison said, examining Sophie, who was being incredibly brave. And we've done this procedure hundreds of times. but I want you to understand what we're dealing with." Maya understood. There was a chance her daughter wouldn't wake up. There was a chance this was the last week she'd have with Sophie. The thought made her physically ill. The next week was torture. Maya tried to keep things normal for the twins, but Sophie knew something was wrong. She asked why she had to go to the doctor so much. Why everyone kept looking at her with sad eyes. Why Mama cried when she thought Sophie was asleep. Alexander cleared his schedule. He showed up every day, sometimes bringing food, sometimes just sitting with them. He played with Sophie and Lucas, making them laugh even when Maya felt like she'd never laugh again. 3 days before the surgery, Sophie asked Maya a question that broke her heart. "Mama, am I going to die?" Maya pulled her daughter close. "No, baby, no. You're going to have surgery and it's going to fix your heart and you're going to be all better. But what if I don't wake up? Like the princess in the story?" Maya couldn't lie to her. Sophie was smart. She deserved honesty. "The doctors are very good at their jobs. They're going to take such good care of you, and Mama will be right there when you wake up. I promise." "Will Mr. Alex be there too?" Maya hadn't thought about that. She looked up and saw Alexander standing in the doorway. He'd let himself in with the key she'd given him for emergencies. He came and knelt beside Sophie. "I'll be there. I promise. When you wake up, your mama and I will both be right there." "You promise?" Sophie asked, her small hand reaching for his. "I promise." Alexander looked at Maya and she saw tears in his eyes. "I'm not going anywhere." The night before the surgery, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept going into Sophie's room, watching her breathe, memorizing every detail of her face. What if this was the last time? What if tomorrow everything fell apart? Alexander found her at 3 in the morning sitting on the floor outside Sophie's door. "Come here," he said softly, helping her up. He led her to the living room and made her sit on the couch. Then he just held her while she cried. "I can't lose her," Maya sobbed. "I can't. She's my baby. She's everything. You won't lose her. She's going to be fine. You don't know that. Nobody knows that." "You're right. I don't know. But I believe it. Sophie is strong because you're strong. She's brave because you've shown her how to be brave. She's going to fight, Maya, and she's going to win." Maya pulled back and looked at him. "Why do you care so much?" "About us?" "Because somewhere along the way you became my family. All 3 of you. I didn't plan it. I didn't expect it. But it happened. And now I can't imagine my life without you in it. Alexander, I know this isn't the right time. I know you have bigger things to worry about. But I need you to know, whatever happens, I'm here. I'm not leaving. I'm not like the twins, Father. I'm staying." Maya kissed him. She didn't plan it, didn't think about it. She just did it. And he kissed her back, soft and gentle and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Maya was crying again. "I'm scared. I know. Me too. Surgery day arrived too quickly. They had to be at the hospital at 6 in the morning. Patricia came to stay with Lucas, who'd cried and cried when he realized his sister was leaving. Maya promised him that Sophie would come home soon, that everything would be okay. She hoped she wasn't lying to him. At the hospital, Sophie was braver than Maya could have imagined. She held her stuffed bunny and told the nurses she was ready. They gave her medicine to make her sleepy. And as her eyes started to close, she looked at Maya. "Love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. So much." Then they wheeled her away and Maya felt like her heart was being torn from her chest. The surgery was supposed to take 4 to 6 hours. Alexander sat with Maya in the waiting room, holding her hand, bringing her coffee she didn't drink, talking to her about nothing and everything. Rosa came, and so did Patricia with Lucas. They all waited together, watching the clock, praying in their own ways. 4 hours passed. 5, 6. At hour 7, Maya was starting to panic. Something was wrong. It should be done by now. Finally, Dr. Harrison came out. Maya stood up so fast she almost fell. Alexander caught her. "She's okay," Dr. Harrison said immediately, and Maya's knees went weak with relief. The surgery went well. It took longer than expected because the defect was slightly larger than we thought, but we repaired it completely. She's in recovery now. She should wake up in the next hour or 2. Maya couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Alexander pulled her close, and she felt him shaking too. They let Maya see Sophie in recovery. She looked so small in the hospital bed, tubes and wires everywhere, but her chest was rising and falling steadily. Maya held her hand and whispered to her, "You did it, baby. You're so brave, so strong. Mama's so proud of you." When Sophie's eyes finally fluttered open, the first thing she said was, "Mama, I'm here, baby." "I'm right here." Sophie looked around, confused and groggy. "Mr. Alex?" "I'm here too," Alexander said from the other side of the bed. "You did great, Sophie. You're a superhero." Sophie smiled weakly. "I beat the monster?" "You beat the monster," Maya confirmed, kissing her forehead. "You beat it all by yourself." Lucas came in later after Sophie was more awake. He climbed up on the bed carefully and hugged his sister. "You came back," he said. "I was scared you wouldn't come back, I promised," Sophie said sleepily. "I always keep my promises." That night, after visiting hours were over and Sophie was sleeping peacefully, Maya and Alexander sat in the hospital cafeteria. They were both exhausted, emotionally drained, running on nothing but relief and coffee. "Thank you," Maya said, "for everything. The surgery, being here, just everything. You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You didn't have to do any of this. We're not your responsibility." Alexander reached across the table and took her hand. "Maya, when are you going to understand? You're not a responsibility. You're a choice. The best choice I've ever made. I want to be here. I want to be part of your lives. If you'll let me." Maya looked at this man who'd started as a wrong number, became an employer, then a friend, and now, what, she didn't have words for what he was now? "What are you saying?" she asked softly. "I'm saying I'm in love with you. With all of you. With Sophie's drawings and Lucas's stories and your strength and your stubborn independence. I'm saying I want this to be real. Not just employer and employee. Not just friends, real. Alexander, this is crazy. We're from completely different worlds. Your board wants you to marry that Victoria woman. You're a billionaire and you're the woman I love. That's all that matters." Maya wanted to believe him, but she'd been hurt before. She'd trusted before and been left alone. "I need time," she said. "Sophie needs to recover. I need to make sure this is real and not just emotions running high because of everything that's happened." "I can wait," Alexander said. "I'll wait as long as you need." But even as he said it, neither of them knew that waiting wouldn't be an option. Because Victoria Hastings had noticed Alexander's absence from work. She'd made inquiries, and she'd discovered exactly where he'd been spending all his time. The attack was coming. They just didn't know it yet. Sophie came home from the hospital after 5 days. She had to take it easy for a few weeks, no running or jumping, but Dr. Harrison said she'd make a full recovery. Her heart was fixed. She'd be able to do everything other kids did. Life started to return to normal, or at least their new version of normal. Maya went back to work at the foundation. Sophie colored and played quietly with Patricia. Lucas started asking when his sister could play outside again, and Alexander was there more than ever. He'd stop by every evening after work. He'd help with homework and bedtime routines. He'd become part of their family in a way that felt both natural and terrifying to Maya. She still hadn't given him an answer about his feelings. Part of her wanted to say yes to everything, to throw caution away and just love him back. But another part of her, the part that had been hurt and abandoned, held back. Then the articles started appearing. The first one was in a business gossip column. Chen Industries CEO spotted at hospital. New romance? It had a blurry photo of Alexander and Maya outside the hospital, his arm around her shoulders. The second article was worse. Billionaire's secret family? Alexander Chen seen with mystery woman and children. By the third article, they had her name. They dug into her background. From diner waitress to CEO's girlfriend? Maya Rodriguez's rapid rise, the stories got meaner. They called her a gold digger. They suggested she'd trapped Alexander with a sob story. One particularly cruel piece implied she might have made Sophie's illness up to get his money. Maya was devastated. She stopped going to the foundation office because reporters were camped outside. She stopped answering her phone because unknown numbers kept calling for comments. She felt like her entire life was being picked apart by strangers. Alexander was furious. He released a statement saying his personal life was private and threatening legal action against anyone who printed lies. But it didn't stop. If anything, it got worse. Then Victoria Hastings made her move. She showed up at the estate one afternoon when Alexander was at the office. The security gate buzzed, and Maya, thinking it was a delivery, told them to let the car through. Victoria was everything Maya wasn't. Tall, elegant, perfectly dressed in clothes that probably cost more than Maya's car used to. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You must be Maya," Victoria said. "I'm Victoria Hastings. I think we should talk." Maya didn't want to talk to this woman, but she also didn't want to be rude. She let Victoria into the guest house after checking that Patricia had taken the twins to the playground on the other side of the property. "I'll be direct," Victoria said, sitting on Maya's couch like she owned it. "Alexander and I have an arrangement. Our families, our companies, were meant to merge. It's been planned for years. His mother approved of it before she died. If Alexander wanted to marry you, he would have by now," Maya said, finding her voice. "He's confused right now. Grief does strange things to people. He's playing house with you because you remind him of some fantasy about his mother's charity work. But it won't last. Men like Alexander don't end up with women like you. Women like me, waitresses with kids from different fathers who can't take care of themselves. You're a charity case he took on. That's all you'll ever be." Maya felt like she'd been slapped. The twins have the same father. And I was taking care of myself just fine before Alexander came along. "Then why did you text him begging for money?" "That was an accident. A wrong number," Victoria laughed. "Do you really expect anyone to believe that? You knew exactly who you were texting. This whole thing has been a setup from the beginning, and now you're using a sick child to keep your hooks in him." "Get out," Maya said, her voice shaking with anger. "Get out of my house right now. This isn't your house. It's Alexander's. Everything you have is Alexander's. Without him, you're nothing. You'd be back in some dingy apartment working dead-end jobs trying to scrape by." Victoria stood up and smoothed her skirt. "Think about your children, Maya. Do you really want them growing up in the spotlight? Having their every move scrutinized? Being called names because their mother is a gold digger? Let Alexander go. Take a settlement. Enough money to start over somewhere else and give him back to his real life." After Victoria left, Maya sat in the empty living room and cried. Because as much as she hated to admit it, Victoria had hit on her deepest fears. What if she was just a charity case? What if Alexander would wake up one day and realize he'd made a mistake? What if the twins got hurt by all this attention? When Alexander came home that evening, Maya was quiet. He knew something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked. She told him about Victoria's visit. She watched his face go from concern to angry to something that looked almost like rage. "I'll handle this," he said. "Victoria has no right to come here and say those things to you." "But she's right about some of it," Maya said softly. "We are from different worlds. Your board does want you to marry her. And the media is destroying me. They're calling me horrible names, Alexander. What happens when the twins are old enough to read those articles? What happens when they go to school and other kids have seen their mother called a gold digger? Maya, and what if Victoria is right? What if you're just playing house because you miss your mother? What if this isn't real?" Alexander took her hands. "Look at me. This is real. What I feel for you is real. What I feel for Sophie and Lucas is real. I don't care what Victoria says or what the media prints or what my board thinks. I care about you. But for how long? What happens when this isn't new and exciting anymore? When you remember that you're a billionaire CEO and I'm just a single mom who can barely—" "Stop," Alexander said firmly. "Stop putting yourself down. You're not just anything. You're incredible. You've built a life from nothing. You've raised 2 amazing children. You've transformed my mother's foundation. You've made me feel things I didn't think I was capable of feeling." Maya wanted to believe him, but doubt was a powerful thing. Over the next few days, the pressure mounted. The media attention got worse. Someone leaked Maya's old address and reporters started bothering her former neighbors. Rosa called, upset because journalists were asking her questions about Maya's past. The board of Chen Industries called an emergency meeting. They demanded that Alex